Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life is wrestling.
Welcome, everyone, to Wrestling is Life is Wrestling with Cody Deaner. I am Cody Deaner, and I am a professional wrestler. I'm a professional wrestling producer with TNA Wrestling. I'm a professional motivational speaker, and I'm a professional dad. I'm a father of 4 awesome kids and a husband to 1 beautiful, amazing wife. And this is my podcast. This is a show where we explore how wrestling imitates life and life imitates wrestling, and all the lessons that we can learn in between. Before we get to today's episode, please visit our sponsors, Rest When Dead Clothing at restwhendead.ca and ceofit.ca for all your fitness and supplement needs. You can also support the show by taking a screenshot right now and tagging at Cody Deaner on your socials. So let's get to it. Enjoy the show. Go where you're valued. I am back for another episode of Wrestling is Life is Wrestling, and we are here with pro wrestler, prolific author, and my friend Ben Nelson Creed. We're back for another episode with Ben, with Bomber, and the author of 12 Pro Wrestling Rules for Life, and we are going to tackle this concept today. One of these rules from this book, 12 Pro Wrestling Rules for Life, is rule number 10, go where you're valued. Why are we talking about this today, Ben? Why is this important? Whether we're talking about wrestling or life, I'll let you start and we'll see where this conversation goes.
I think the rule, go where you're valued, is so fundamental when you think of the biggest names in wrestling. Who are the 2 biggest names? You know, like we're 90s kids, 80s, 90s, Hogan and Flair, right? Hogan and Flair.
Okay.
Both of them went where they were valued. Hogan was supposed to be AWA champion. He was going to get pinned into marrying Vern Gagne's daughter or Great Gagne's daughter, something weird like that, he says, right?
Hey, yeah. Interesting.
He was like,
yes.
And then he was like, he was on the cut. He started working with the WWF, I think, at the time. And then Vince Sr., he's like, hey, I got an opportunity to be in a movie. Vince Sr., no, you can't do that. You're going to get canned. And I might be mixing up the timeline a little bit. He's like, hey, I'm going to go do a movie. He did Rocky 3, and that was what made his career. I mean, he probably would have been Hulk Hogan, but I mean, the Thunderlips persona was Hulk Hogan, just a little bit more of a heel gimmick, right? So, boom, biggest name in the biz. And to me, still the biggest name in the biz, right? Went where he was valued when he wasn't getting what he was deserved, and it didn't really align with his vision for what he was going to do.
Right.
Ric Flair, WCW treating him like garbage. He was having like anxiety attacks. He was biting his fingers, he said, during the ring just to see if he still had hands. Like he was completely going nuts. And what was it? Bad environment. He was in the wrong spot. He mailed the belt to Vince. He talked to Vince, handshake deal, and he was gone, right? Instantly. And all of a sudden, that was like the biggest story. 1989, 1990, that was the biggest story in wrestling, not even close, right?
Yeah.
That was the invasion angle. And there's Sergeant Slaughter, too, another one, working for the WWF, 84, 85. We want you to be a G.I. Joe figure. Well, and Vince, no, you can't be a G.I. Joe figure. Basically, I own you. He's like, well, no. And he goes home, he talks to his wife about it. She's like, well, you're only going to get one chance to be an action figure outside of wrestling. He's like, you're right. Boom, gone. And sure enough, and all 3 of those guys went back to where they were told they were never going to go again, right? Yes. So that place is always there. So if you want to really live your gimmick and be who you want to be, and like write an interesting story for you, or live an interesting story where you're like, yeah, that was good. You got to have some balls, but you got to go where you're valued. Don't just sit around being underappreciated. Don't let other people tell you your self-worth, and don't let a lack of opportunity define your opportunity in life, right? Like there's been so many people, I mean, locally, who left? Kyle O'Reilly was here. And I remember it was just like a short email conversation. He's like, they're telling me if I stick around, they're going to put a belt on me, or I can go down, I can go to Memphis Kansas City, I think, Missouri, and live with Davey Richards. And I was like, dude, go. Like, what do you, this is always going to be here. This isn't going anywhere. Go.
Yeah.
Run away as fast as you can, right? Chelsea Green, who's killing it right now. She started locally, right? She trained with Lance Storm, came out here. She was working out here. And like, they were really not happy to have her around in a lot of ways because she was an outside talent. And you could just see she was good. Like, you could just, like, okay, that face and that persona, like, she was just good. And you knew, like, everyone was like, she's going to do well. Like, she's going to at least do very well. She's done awesome.
Yes.
But again, she was like, no, I'm not going to sit around. Like, why would I sit in BC? You know, she found an opportunity and she dove in it. Our buddy Showtime. What made his career? TNA. What made his career in TNA? Leaving Ontario. And Ontario really valued him, but he saw that, like, okay, I love it here, but if I stay here, I'm going to keep doing the same thing. If I don't take any action 5 years from now, I might be the top guy in Ontario, but if I really want to make my chances known, if I really want to make cash in my opportunities, I got to go where I've got a chance to be valued for what I really am. And there you go, right? So
there's two things that stand out from the things that you're saying. I could unpack a lot. One thing you actually just said in passing, which I tell people all the time, is you said, if you want to basically be the author of your own story and you want to write the story of your life, then you're going to pick the right path and the most interesting one and the one where you're valued. And I like to think of life that way because I'm a professional storyteller. And I say that when I do speeches for young people. I'm like you're the author of your story. And are you going to want to read the own story that you've written?
Yeah.
Like if you, and you're not the victim of and a side character in the story. You are the main character. You get to decide where you go and what you do and if this is a story worth reading or not. So yes, part of that decision making as you choose your own adventure of the story that you're writing about yourself is go where you're valued. Or maybe you will end up lying on a mat, chewing your fingers, wondering if your hands exist, even though you're the greatest professional wrestler of all freaking time. You're still right. It's because of the environment that you're in. The second thing that I kept thinking about, and I haven't really talked about this on my show or a lot really in any episode I've done, even with my previous format, is relationships. And how important this rule actually is, not in a business sense, even though it is. It's like you want to go where you're valued. You want to work for the company where you can make the most money and where they value you and you can contribute. But I also think this absolutely applies to relationships. I haven't got into a lot of relationship advice on the show, but this pro wrestling rule applies, right? Like I think a lot of people would be able to relate and go, man, that relationship didn't work out because I wasn't valued in it. And you want to be with somebody in life that values you. Can you relate to that?
Oh, too much, bro. Too much.
Right? Yeah. We don't need to go into relationship histories, but I think as professional wrestlers, and I think you as an author, I think, man, there's a lot we can unpack there, but dude, like maybe we don't need to go into relationships, but you can if you want. You could go that route. Like how does this rule? Why is this one of the rules for life? Because every single rule that you've written is a rule that you want your readers to apply to their life. You're not just writing to wrestling fans. It's to anybody that can take some life advice. And one of your life advices was, sometimes I give them the wrong advices, but you've decided, no, I'm going to give them the right advices and go where you're valued. Let's talk about life a little bit. Why does this apply?
There's so much to say in that. Like I'll get into relationships because I'll remember that because there's a lot of funny stories. But your relationship with yourself, man. Like, are you putting yourself in an environment where you're going to value yourself? Even
that's interesting.
Are you doing stuff like there's the rule about treat yourself like the main event and learn to take your bumps and all that kind of stuff, right? And choose your friends carefully too. But like
all good rules.
Your relationship with yourself. Are you building stuff? Are you putting things around you that are going to help push you forward? Right? It's called recidivism, where you go back and keep doing the same thing, and it's a mistake. And the number one cause of that is environmental. There's been a clinical study. It's actually funny. In the back of the wrestling book, there was a micro book about TED Talks. And one of the TED Talks was this doctor, and he was saying the number one defining thing, if you're trying to overcome a behavior like addiction or whatever, get out of it, is if you go back in the same environment, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. So what do you like? Imagine like there's probably like a one little change you could do. Like, hey, you know what? I'm not leaving my phone by my bed. I'm leaving a book by my bed, and I'm going to fall asleep reading a book instead of my phone. Like, what a difference! So when you go where you're valued, or even build the environment around you, that's going to make a huge impact on you. And then for relationships, like as a young wrestler, man, you can just go in. No, the business is hard on relationships. It is so hard on relationships.
Oh my God.
You're one of my favorite people in the business, but I don't talk to him anymore because we're just too far disconnected because he's gone and done so much. Carl Anderson. Have you ever met?
I've worked Carl.
He is such a nut. I mean, I love the guy so much. He was the most amazing, and he is, I think, an amazing dad. Yeah. Especially considering he is gone all the time. He is gone all the time. Yes. And you could just, like, I remember seeing pictures of him on Facebook with his little boys, and their face, like his face was the face of a little kid. You know, like he just lit up so much. But he built relationships around himself. Yeah. And he built he made sure that everyone felt valued around him. And also, he went where he was valued, but also made sure that the people around him were taken care of as well as he could. So he was the best to have really. But like my relationships, like 3 or 4 times, like my first girlfriend, my second girlfriend, my third girlfriend. And we're not talking like girlfriend. I'm talking like 5-year relationship, 3-year relationship, 3-year relationship. Yeah. And I should have known it was not going to work when not one of them valued what I wanted to do. Right? They didn't value that I wanted to be a pro wrestler. That was like my lifelong, since I was 7 years old, lifelong goal, lifelong dream. Want to be a pro wrestler. The first one, like, oh, you're getting hurt too much. Like, well, yeah, you're going to hurt yourself, which, of course. Oh, I got around here. I got to say, like, a shameless plug. But like that was the first book I wrote. You're going to hurt yourself.
Not a shameless plug. We're on here with you, man. What's the name? What's the title of the book? Throw it up.
You're going to. I can't see the camera when I'm doing it.
Oh yeah, you're gonna hurt yourself.
You're gonna hurt yourself.
Subtitle?
My unbelievable story of failure in professional wrestling.
Love it.
Yeah,
pick that one up too, folks. Also on Amazon.
And like that was what everyone says. Like, so when I was growing up, BC, this was long before the internet, right? So you couldn't even find a wrestling school. But I wanted to be a pro wrestler, and pro wrestling indies at that time were really rough. You weren't making any money, and you were fighting hard to even find somewhere to go because the territories were still like in life support from Vince taking over, right? But yeah, that was all people would say to you. Oh, you're going to hurt yourself. What a stupid thing. It's like, that is the exact wrong environment. You need someone who's going to build you up, right? You need to go somewhere where you really thrive with the people who have the same vision as you. And so when I got to wrestling school in Ontario, it was like the first week was kind of rough getting to know the guys and just like homesick, missing the girlfriend, all that kind of stuff. But after that, it was like, man, like I'm with my brothers because I'm where I'm valued. Okay, these guys value the fact that I have a dream that I want to pursue and they're pursuing their dreams. Like we're building it together, It was such a changing, like, and those guys are still some of my best friends today. Yep. We lived together for 6 months and we wrestled together. That built relationships. When you go where you're valued, you are going to connect with the people who share your values, and you're going to connect with people who want more for you. I love it. So first girlfriend couldn't handle that, and like we still dated for 3 years, but she was like, "Nah, wrestling, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to, And I'm sure I did, but what? You can hurt yourself walking out. You can hurt yourself doing anything, right? Yeah. I mean, some risks, but if it's a risk you want to take, you got to take it. Second girlfriend was the same thing. It was like, I was actually talking to Les Thatcher. No, not Les Thatcher. I was talking to Rip Rogers in OVW at the time. I was super jacked. I had like an 8-pack. I'd gone from like I'd broken my leg and gotten really fat. I leaned out like crazy. I looked really good. I was hot in wrestling. I loved what I was doing. And she's like, hey, you can stick around here, live with me for free, and you can go to school and have a guaranteed career. Or, I was like, go down to OVW. I was like, safe bet, I'll play it. And didn't go anywhere, right? And then the third one. I remember the third one. I actually had an opportunity to fight for IGF in Japan, which is why I was thinking of Carl Anderson. And it was going to be a shoot fight. So I wasn't that gung-ho on it. And she's like, well, I can't believe you're going to go over do that when you could come out and hang out with me for the weekend. Because I was living in Vancouver. She was on the island. I was like, what? You know, like, shit, you can
Mhm.
come. And then, so as it turned out, next week I was training and I tore my MCL, so I didn't end up doing the fight. But just that idea of someone who doesn't value your vision, who
Yes.
your friends, family, girlfriend, whatever relationships, if they don't value your vision and they're not on board with you pursuing what makes you you, you're in the wrong territory, figuratively or metaphorically or relationship speaking. If you're
Yes.
not getting support for your values and what you're trying to do, you need to go where you are valued and where you're going to get support. You
Yes.
know, and everyone's going to
Agreed.
tell you that. You know,
Yep.
like
That's so
any,
good.
yeah,
And on the positive note, we're talking because I could go on my like past negative relationships that didn't go well because of wrestling, but on
yeah,
the I like to try to focus on the positive,
yeah,
which you are too. Or I love how
uh,
we keep bringing this back to like this idea of that you're valued. Is that's actually how I knew that my wife was the one when I did
uh-huh.
find the one, because I was in the business for like 10 years, 12 years before I met her. And then she 100% supported me. Never in a million years would she say what those relationships that you had, would they say stuff like that? Like, it was
Mm,
never negative. It was always like fully supported my vision, fully valued the same thing that I valued. And then the cool thing about that is when you receive that, then you give that back, right?
mm-hmm.
You're not trying to like take, you're like, neither person in the relationship is trying to take, they're both giving. So then I valued her vision and her things that she wanted out of life as well, and then she gave it back, and then that's how I knew I was in the right relationship, because I felt valued, I was valued, and then I fully respected and valued my partner and
Mm-hmm.
their goals and their visions as well. And then it was the perfect place. I knew I was in the right place. And I
Mm-hmm.
think those concepts work in wrestling, they work in relationships, they work in business, and they work in life. I think this rule is such an important one, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 Well,
What is synchronicity you get out of it too? You're building someone else up, they're building you up.
mm-hmm,
Like,
mm-hmm.
what are
Like
you
what's
going to
like a
do?
good pro wrestling match.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like, you both people should look good at the
Mm-hmm.
end. What do they say? I think one of the things, I should add this to my rule and maybe do a future episode on this, is
Mm-hmm.
that one person goes over and one person gets over, right?
Right.
There's a
Nice.
difference,
Nice.
right? Like,
Yeah.
as long, like,
Yeah.
everybody can shine at the end and look
Mm-hmm.
good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there is a difference between going over and getting over. And but
Mm-hmm.
like, everybody should be risen
Mm-hmm.
by
Yeah.
that match. And the same thing in a good relationship, both people
Yeah.
can rise to the occasion, for
Yeah,
sure.
build each other up for sure, right? Especially, yeah, in a match. Matt Bourne, I remember him talking, like, he said when he was a kid in the territories, someone new was coming in. He said, "Okay, what can we do to get them over? What can we do to
Yeah.
get them over? Why? Because if he gets over, I get over. We all get over, right? It's the same
Mm,
thing in that relationship.
yes.
Your now wife. Hey, if I can get him over, he's going to support me, and you just build the synchronicity of being around the right group of people in the right area, right, where you're valued and your values are valued.
Mhm.
You're gonna rock it up. That's
Yeah.
all there is to it. You just got to
Hell
get to
yeah.
the right spot, right? So don't ever let people being in the wrong territory, wrong relationship, wrong job. Yeah, you're getting dumped on. Okay, it sucks. Yeah, well, that's not your value for
Mhm.
yourself. You go
Mhm.
where you're valued and your values can shine. Right? Don't let other
Absolutely.
people dictate it to you. Yeah.
100%. Let's end it there. Let's tell them, after they're super pumped up. Somebody is right now is like, screw this, man. I'm moving on, because
Do it.
they're feeling
Yeah.
like they're not valued somewhere
Yeah.
right now. And now they're listening to Bomber, they're listening to Ben Nelson Creed, and they're also moved to be like, not only am I going to get out of my crappy situation, I'm going to buy Ben's books. Let's plug both your books. We've got the 12 Pro Wrestling Rules for Life. Just go on to Amazon.ca and
Thanks,
you
brother.
can find that one. And then your other one, You're Gonna Hurt Yourself.
Yeah.
I love it. Yes,
Yeah,
go pick that one up as well.
You're
I'll
gonna hurt
put both
yourself.
those links in the show notes for people that want to pick up those
brother.
books and support you. Thank you for chatting with me here, man. I very much appreciate it, and I think somebody out there has been helped by these rules for life, both in these conversations and folks that have read your book. So thanks, brother.
Thanks, brother. I really appreciate it too. I feel like I learned something from you. So thanks.
Hell yeah, man. Right on.
Cheers.
That's going to do it for another episode of Wrestling is Life is Wrestling. Until next time, guys, please visit our sponsors, Rest When Dead clothing at restwhendead.ca, as well as ceofit.ca for all your fitness and fitness supplement needs. Don't forget to take a screenshot of today's episode and tag me at Cody Deaner. If you want to learn how to book me on your wrestling show or your speaking event, you can go to codydeaner.com or learn about my speaking career at chrisgrayspeaks.com. Until next time, guys, don't forget that wrestling is life, is wrestling. We'll see you next time, guys.
Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life, is wrestling.